Charles, good morning, and thanks for coming in for us this morning. So let's start with the ANC, where we're looking at the hard work beginning now for President Cyril Ramaphosa. Not as much as he has to celebrate, we're seeing the factions, we're seeing the cracks appear again after this election. I'm not sure that they actually ever went away during the election. I mean, how unified was the party during this election? But just a couple of days later, we're seeing again that there are the divisions are showing themselves. We're seeing the factions coming out again. And do you foresee that that's going to make his job even more difficult, with people watching him to see that he puts the right people in the right jobs after this?
Look, I think the challenge will remain with factionalism, because there's the one ANC which is seen to be elite or middle class that wants a meritocratic civil service, a well-functioning bureaucracy, and that would somehow render Matamela unpopular to some of the factions from within the ANC. And now going forward, the ANC has had a credibility crisis for the longest time, and I think President Ramaphosa needs to clean shop, and that is not going to be a smooth ride for him.
Do you see those factions and those cracks deepening then within the ANC?
Definitely they will deepen, because first of all, on his, as he's going to be cleaning shop, a lot of people from within the ANC itself are not going to be happy. I mean, he's going to have to take some really unpopular decisions, and that is not going to make anything easier for him at all.
I think at the top of that list will be the position of Deputy President.
Of course, of course. And also the issue of premiership and the representation of women in the Premier League. So I think that too will add on his list of worries going forward.
And I mean, and just looking at the drop, as much as it was an overall victory, at the drop in support and the percentages we saw coming, he's going to have to make sure that the next 5 years are not a repeat of the last 5 years that we've seen.
Of course. I mean, he needs to move, the party needs to move from that rhetoric. I mean, Ramaphosa needs to be seen to be fixing the ANC, and unfortunately a lot of people are going to have to take a backlash from that. And well, we're looking forward to it. I know he's a pragmatist. I mean, he's going to have to take some rational decisions, but they are not going to be good in terms of party constituency, speaking from, an internal party position. Yeah. So
now he has a mammoth task ahead of him. Let's talk about the DA and what we're saying. I mean, we all expected that Mmusi Maimane was going to be given a very tough time after that poor showing in this election. But good decision, bad decision to say the entire party is responsible for where we are, or has he done a good enough job?
Look, I think Mmusi Maimane has done a lot with very little faith. I mean, the people of South Africa in general, they don't look at the DA as a party that would represent their interests. But with Mmusi's charisma, the DA has managed to remain relevant for the longest of time. And I think it cannot be said that Mmusi Maimane is responsible for the DA's downfall. I mean, people still look at the DA as a right-wing party, a white conservative party, and I think Mmusi Maimane has done a lot to bring those issues into the forefront.
Okay, well, we'll have to watch that space, because, I mean, they do have a federal Congress that's coming up, and that's going to be, well, it's not too far away in 2021, and I suppose it will be very dicey to talk about change of leadership there as well. The IFP finding a reason to celebrate, and I'm sure the EFF as well, although we haven't heard much in the past 24 hours there. But, I mean, just a very quick look at both of those parties and the road ahead for them from here now.
Well, I think the IFP deserves this victory, but also this is emanating from the fact that, former President Zuma is no longer the leader of the ANC, and the IFP came out strong mostly at the KZN province, and this is much attributable to the fact that President Zuma is no longer the head of the ANC. And I think for the Red Berets as well, I think it's about time they change their own strategy. I don't think populist ideals can take the party further on going forward. I think they need a change of strategy. And I think they need to be more tamed. They need to be more conventional. I mean,
In what way?
They can't always resort to populist ideals whenever they are trying to garner support for themselves. I mean, this might have worked in the previous local municipality elections, but going forward, I don't think this will be an ideal way for the EFF to go
To
forward.
be realistic, you mean, till
Yes.
the next election over the
Yes.
next 5 years,
Exactly.
and make those. Okay, so and then the IFP very quickly. I mean, we see Mangosuthu Buthelezi saying, he is preparing to return to Parliament. He's not going to slow down, but he's not going to be the IFP leader. Is that going to be confusing for supporters of this party, you think, going forward after doing so well in KZN?
Well, given the timing of this decision, I would say that the IFP, they still have time, and it would be very significant for them to bring in young leadership into the forefront. I mean, they still have more time to galvanize their strategies. They still have more time to recoup their strength. So I think going forward, the IFP should focus on youth, and it should strengthen their policies, and I think they will do well, given the timing of this decision.
Okay, well, it's certainly going to make for very interesting days in Parliament with those extra seats when it comes to the EFF as well, and it's showing. So it's going to be fun times ahead. Thanks very much for that. That's researcher Charles Matseke. Just looking at what the parties have had to say post results and what would be the best way, what would be the most sensible way for them to move, especially over the next 5 years till the next election.